Good morning. My name is Matthew Woitaszek. I'm a computer scientist at the National Center for Atmospheric Research. I first learned about NCAR when I was an 8th grader in Mrs. Kuhn's Earth Science class. And I remember we watched a weather video, and for part of it they featured NCAR scientists working on one of the computers that was here in the building at the time. And ever since then I've had this idea in the back of my mind that I wanted to go work with supercomputers at NCAR. Pretty much a perfect job for me. Loosely defined, I play with supercomputers for a living. A little bit more formally, I'm in a research position that allows me to work in investigating new supercomputer technologies that might be useful to NCAR in the next few years.
My name is Anke Kamrath. I am the director of the computing services here, like the supercomputers and everything related to that. I actually started out as a rocket scientist and did that for a couple of years. But then I ended up using a lot of computers and doing computer graphics to do the rocket science. And I like the computing side more than the rocket science side, even though I'm sure you guys might think otherwise.
I'm Jason Boynton. I'm the room manager here, so I maintain all of the infrastructure services. What that means is I take care of the power and the cooling and the space requirements that are needed and required to maintain a data center.
All right, this is the mechanical room. Somewhere, right? So these chillers, this is a chiller, and this unit over here is a chiller. Okay? These chillers are responsible for moving that water through and removing the heat from the room. Without these guys, that room gets really, really hot. Like a little biological system, you know? Like your heart pumps blood through and out. Same thing in here. We pump cold water in and out, and that's what keeps us alive.
I like playing with the big computers, so I approach it from the computer science and computer engineering perspective. And people who like to keep things working and tinker with things often become system administrators to keep these systems running and make them run as efficiently as possible. So there's an entire spectrum of academic fields and job tracks that could bring people together here to solve these very challenging and interesting problems. The reason I keep this is because when I was first hired to work at NCAR, we had a system called Blue Sky that was one of the most powerful computers at the time. In fact, it was within the top 10. When the system was finally decommissioned and replaced, they gave this one to me. So this for me is a reminder of what supercomputing was like when I first was hired at NCAR. This is the disk system for NCAR's Blue Fire supercomputer. It's a couple hundred terabytes. What you'll notice is that each of these little levers right here is a hard drive, about 300 gigabytes in size. The little blinky lights, of course, tell you when data is written. If you stand back and look at it, you might be able to notice that the lights blink in patterns. What happens there is that for performance, the computers write through an entire stripe of disks at once, so that they can use multiple disks in a much faster fashion. This is Oberg. He's a software engineer. He is the person who actually knows all the details about these systems.
A couple of these users are using 1,024 processors at the same time. And so this represents about 2/3 of the system in use right as we speak. Another thing to show is the file systems, the data space at this time. So we can scroll, we can go to these other servers as we wish, instead of it just being dedicated just to your main system. This is the service node, it's called, for the BlueGNL machine. So the very large machine that sits behind these racks is all controlled by this main. And so I'm logged into the main server, so from here we can do anything that we want. And so one command that we're going to do is just what's called QStat, and it shows the status of the queues that the users use to interact with the system.
So underneath the floor is the power and the cooling. So you'll notice that when we open it up, the cold air blows out. This is one of the power cables for one of the racks. They run at a high voltage. For me, I think the most important thing was finding a balance of staying excited and doing well in school to go on to find what really interested in me. The interesting thing about this for me is that it doesn't seem like a job. Sometimes I wake up and I can't believe that they actually let me in here and that they pay me to do this. Sometimes I have trouble working too late at night because my job is fun.